Hey, Justin here, welcome back. So just looking at the orchid wall here, the flowering, most of the flowering plants. Could just quickly go through them. The Gongora is, well, that spike is finished. That's the third spike, and there's a fourth spike coming out. So that's been fantastic, very fragrant blooms. And I've got some, this is a Coelogene here, a Coelogene chloroptera. Beautiful miniature Coelogene species. It is somewhat fragrant. It reminds me of bacon. It's sort of like bacon perfume, so odor bacon, something like that. Quite interesting aroma. And this is Phalaenopsis. Is it Parishio? No, what's it called again? Equestris, yeah, Phalaenopsis equestris, also somewhat fragrant, and this one also again like a perfume of melted plastic. So yeah, it's quite an interesting perfume, but it's not bad. It's not that bad, but yeah, that's what it reminds me of. Probably reminds you of something completely different. These things tend to be very specific. And down here, three beautiful novelty phals. The one on the left here is Equalior, I think it is. The label's kind of, or Equalescence, I think it was Equalior. The label's kind of rubbed off. Very fragrant, obviously pulchra and perhaps violescence in there. Violacea, is it? Violacea, yeah. Nice one. And Orange Baby, which we've seen before, also very nice fragrant. These ones are all have a really nice fragrance, and each one slightly different. This one here is the primary hybrid of Amboinensis and Bellina. You can really see the Bellina, the little flares down on the down here. These flares, the little red flares, pinkish flares. That's typical from Bellina, and the mottling is from Amboinensis, so that's a really nice hybrid, I think, and a really nice fragrance as well, perhaps the nicest of them all. So yeah, and then of course we've got Delanatii also. Eventually the fragrance did come out on that, so it's a little bit more subtle, but it's a rose type of fragrance. Really beautiful flower, the Delanatii vinicolor. I prefer that to the standard form. I just think it's a really stunning flower. And the other ones, which we've all seen before, but Lowii up there has got a little kaiki on it. If you can see it there on the right side. I did just repot it, so I think I might chop that flower off and let it focus on growing the next fan. And yeah, I've got a few more things. Months. This is the Cattleya Amber Queen, which I showed last time as well. So it's got two racemes open at the moment, 4 flowers on one, 3 on the other, and there was a third one with another 3 flowers. So really beautiful. And this one opens up greenish, sort of like an ice green, and so you see this one hasn't completely faded to pink yet, still kind of yellowish. Does fade eventually. Yeah, so this one's yeah, it's not that spectacular, but for me it's quite an achievement, because this is a Dendrobium jenkinsii, and I've had this plant for many years, more than 10 years. And this is the first time it's ever flowered, so little pat on the back, I suppose. It did have about 7 or 8 buds on it. Most of them dropped off, as always, but 2 of them did make it this time. So yeah, hopefully the new approach with leaving it outside sort of into October to get some really cool temperatures, hopefully that's going to yield more regular flowerings in the future. Into the living room now, and this is my Dendrobium Helix by Dr. Utai. and it's coming in for its first time blooming. I've had it for a couple of years, and it's grown pretty well. So I'm not sure how much longer till they open, but it looks like it's getting pretty close. Very elegant looking plant, I think. Enjoy that. And yeah, of course, the Cymbidium lowianum still hasn't opened its buds. It's taking forever. Yeah, they are slowly but surely getting bigger. And the last one in bud over here is Anguloa. This will be the first flowering for more than 10 years. It's taken me a long time to figure out how to grow this, but it's been very patient with me. But this one does not like to be in the hot greenhouse during summer. That's one of the things that I figured out. So the big one, the big growth in the middle there is the new leaf, and on either side there's a flower bud. And the flower buds are quite large. I think this is Anguloa, what does it say? Uniflora. Okay, Anguloa uniflora. Yeah, so hopefully we'll see that one in bloom soon. So this is my Paphiopedilum dianthum, which I've waited for about 6 years to come into flower. When I bought it, it was already a pretty good sized juvenile plant, supposedly 1 year to flowering size, and 6 years later this is what has popped out. So a bit of a mutant flower, just the one flower, hasn't opened up properly. Yeah, so c'est la vie. That's how it goes sometimes. It does have a little baby growth coming out next to it, so hopefully that one will be better. Probably another 4 years of waiting to see how it will come out. So that's all part of the hobby. Yeah, the life cycle of these Paphiopedilums, especially these larger ones, it really puts a human lifetime into perspective, because they can literally go for decades to get fully mature, to clump up. You could be talking 30 years, something like that for some of them. And this one is a pretty, yeah, I wouldn't say it's hugely slow growing. It's a pretty big one though. So the big ones do take longer to mature, and apparently the first clump, it's not willing to do anything much. Hopefully on the next fan it will give a nicer display. And I'm really not sure if this is dianthum or something else. It's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait for 4 or 5 years and see next time what comes out. So Paphiopedilum dianthum is a closely related species to Parishii. Sometimes Parishii is regarded as a subspecies of dianthum. This is a large growing plant, and oh, what's that? Oh, I thought I saw, I do. Oh God, it's got another flower in there. Can you believe it? Oh dear, dear. Okay, well, hopefully that one, the problem is there's no stalk on it. It didn't grow a stalk, so the flowers are just popping out directly from the fan. So I think that's part of the reason why it's mangled. Another thing that I notice is that it does not have any petals. So we've got the pouch here, and we've got the dorsals, but there should be 2 petals here in between, and they're actually there. I think they're, yeah, they're hanging down on this one, aren't they? They're pendant twisting, so it didn't get that somehow. But yeah, quite interesting how this dorsal is really twisted up. Probably the petals and the dorsal have fused together in this flower. But yeah, I mean, it could be quite nice if you look at, there's some nice striations there. Yeah, some potential, but yeah, I was quite surprised to see there's actually another flower in there. Yeah, that really is a surprise, but yeah, let's see what happens. Another one which is coming into bud, or is in bud, coming into flower, is this primary hybrid of Holcoglossum Kimbellianum and Vanda cerulescens. This one already flowered for me when I got it. Yeah, it was in winter, I think. It was flowering, so a couple of months later, 6 months later, flowering again. It is a kind of a unwieldy plant, a little bit long, the leaves. I think Vanda cerulescens is better behaved, but this is probably easier to grow, so and the flowers are quite nice, so look forward to that. So just a quick look at the greenhouse now in late spring. So a lot of the plants have been moved out into the garden, the cooler growing or intermediate growing plants, and what I do have here is a lot of Cattleyas in particular, and they're all doing quite well. So you can see no shortage of Cattleyas in all their different shapes and forms. Got some Myrmecophyllus there, Tillandsias there at the back, and yeah, so it gets really bright in here at this time of year. Starts to get very bright. The Cattleyas kind of like that, but there is a limit to it. Yeah, at this stage I haven't put any additional shading to protect them. I want to get them as much as possible to the point of almost burning, which will be in a couple of weeks probably, and then I'll put up another layer of bubble wrap just to diffuse the light a bit more, and that will hopefully yeah, that should be enough to prevent them burning. It's really the combination of heat and light which will cause even the Cattleyas, the leaves to start burning. So in the house, if it's not as hot typically, so they seem to be able to take a fair bit more light, is what I've been observing. But out here in the greenhouse, yeah, well, it's already 33 degrees out here now. Outside it's like 18 degrees or something, so it is a big difference. It gets hot. So but yeah, the Cattleyas, they like a nice warm summer, so it's ideal for growing some Cattleyas out here. They seem to do reasonably well out here. I'm still experimenting and learning, trying to grow some of the species, see which ones will do well, which ones won't. But yeah, all in all, I'd say it's a pretty decent approach, and they do like this way of putting them up and hanging them, sort of the airy pots with lots of air holes, lots of ventilation, and you need to give them a lot of water through the summer to keep them hydrated, what I'm trying to say. And the other thing that I noticed last year, I was made quite a big boo-boo, I suppose, but they do need quite a bit of calcium and magnesium, Cattleyas, when they're grown like this. That's my conclusion from last year. Quite a few of my Cattleyas stopped, well, they didn't grow in the spring when they should have been, and they started getting blackened growths at the growth nodes, and also this mottling on the leaves. I can show you maybe one that has a bit of that. It can also be insect damage, can also result in this type of effect, but you see that mottling. I'm fairly convinced now that that's a magnesium deficiency. So magnesium is a mobile nutrient, and the Cattleyas will move the magnesium out of the old leaves to supply the new growth. So when you see this mottling, it can be an indication of magnesium deficiency. And where combined with the blackened new growths, yeah, I did some research, and ultimately the conclusion was CalMag deficiency, calcium and magnesium. So I started adding CalMag to my fertilizer, even although there is already some calcium and magnesium in the fertilizer that I use. Probably it wasn't enough, because when they're grown like this under pretty high temperatures and high light, it can kind of, yeah, they can handle it. They will grow quickly, but then the nutrients really need to be there for them. Otherwise, they kind of implode. That's what happened to me last year. So I lost quite a few Cattleyas in the end. They just, yeah, they went downhill, and there was no recovering. Fortunately, quite a few of them have recovered. Most of them, I think, are doing fine. So it was a good lesson to learn, and part of the journey of learning how to grow Cattleyas, I suppose. So I've moved my intermediate growing dendrobiums out into the garden now as well. The warm air has entered the country, the Netherlands, about 10 days ago, and it's like temperatures just go up by 10 degrees, basically 10 degrees centigrade. And once that warm air comes in, it doesn't leave again that quickly. So it's kind of safe to put the plants out into the garden now. I think it's, what is it, 18th of May, I think. So getting towards June, 1 month from the summer solstice, the longest day, about 5 weeks. So the day's getting nice and long, and we've had some beautiful weather here with a bit of rain, bit of sun, really good conditions for these dendrobiums and other orchids which come from mountainous conditions, let's say 1,000 meters and up in the tropical mountains. These are the type of conditions which I think are conducive. Got some phragmipediums down there as well, cotyledons, yeah, lots of different stuff. The gongora out there, dendrochilum, well, now regarded as part of cotyledon, and some other stuff. But yeah, this one here is Dendrobium fimbriatum, sorry, not fimbriatum, Findleyanum. And this one, really a fascinating plant, but you can see a little flower spike on it there. It's got potentially 3 little nodes. I'm really hoping that no slugs or snails are going to find their way onto this plant out on the tree. That's one of the reasons for hanging it in the tree, is to make it harder for the slugs and snails to find it, because well, you can see at the end of this leaf what happens. They love these dendrobiums. They don't seem to have any natural defense against slugs and snails and mites and a lot of other things. So they are also deciduous to a lesser or greater extent, most of them. But yeah, I think this is really a fascinating species with the swollen internodes on the cane like that. I've always found that really interesting.